Can you imagine having parents who literally wished you would crash and burn? Because mine did. They bought me a car they knew was broken, hoping I'd disappear from their lives forever. But what they didn't expect was to lose both their sons in the process. My older brother, he's 20, and the favoritism was always so blatant it hurt. When he turned 18, he got a car, not new, but a 20-year-old Lexus. It was in great shape, and he absolutely rubbed it in my face for his entire senior year.
Me?
I got grades just as good, sometimes even better. I worked myself to the bone, hoping for a glimmer of fairness. I even volunteered, cleaning up trash in our neighborhood, trying to show them I was worthy. I just wanted them to see me. Then my 18th birthday came a few weeks ago. The only thing I wanted, the only thing I hoped for, was a car. I wasn't expecting some fancy new sports car, just something reliable like my brother got.
But my party?
It was nothing like his. For his, Mom baked a delicious, layered chocolate pudding cake. For mine, I got a sheet cake from the supermarket. He had a DJ. I had my dad's old boombox and some mix CDs. We went through the whole party, and I kept waiting, hoping they were just holding out for a big surprise. But it never came. As things were winding down, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Asked them, why no car? Brother got one. They just looked at me, completely straight-faced, and said he worked harder for it. My blood ran cold. Worked harder? I asked what he did that I didn't because I did all that and more. My grandma was nearby. She heard everything. And bless her heart, she wasn't having it. She asked them the same question. Then she lectured my parents right there, saying she was extremely disappointed in their favoritism. She announced to everyone still left at the party that my parents thought it was fine to get their firstborn a car and a DJ, but not their second. She pointed out how much more effort they put into his 18th than mine. My uncle was the first to speak up, then everyone else joined in. It was humiliating for all of us. I walked away. I went to my room and sat there, the shame and anger swirling inside me. Later, I got apology calls from a few relatives. My grandparents eventually convinced me to go out with them that evening, just to get away. But when I got back, my parents were pissed. They told me I had shamed them in front of the whole family. I didn't even dignify it with a response. I just walked past them, not wanting to fight. The next few weeks were a blur of silent treatment, an emotional Cold War. Then, a few days ago, they suddenly surprised me. It was a white '98 Subaru Legacy, and it seemed to run great. They practically threw the keys and the title in an envelope at me and said, "Have fun." They were even paying for 6 months of insurance just like they did for my brother. It felt so hollow. A car isn't a right, it's a privilege, I know. But it felt like I'd blackmailed them into it. 5 months later. I haven't logged into this account in ages, so now I can tell you the rest of the story before college starts. A lot of you commented saying I should give the car back, that I was spoiled, or shouldn't take handouts from crappy parents. Let me be clear, I needed that car. I lived over 10 miles from the nearest bus stop. There was no way to get a job without personal transportation. So please, those comments, just stop. My inbox was overflowing. Anyway, it doesn't matter now. I did get a part-time job which went full-time for the summer after graduation. But 3 weeks into working, that Subaru blew its head gasket. I was on the highway, doing about 45 miles per hour, and the temperature gauge redlined. My heart stopped. I had to pull over and call for help. My grandparents, bless them, took a look, and what they found made my blood run cold. Someone had poured a ton of gasket sealer into it. It was still in the coolant. The car was basically band-aided back together before my parents bought it, barely hanging on by a thread. It drove great, and I'm a slow driver, so I never pushed it. My parents? They claimed no prior knowledge. Their only reaction was a shrug. Karma for making us get you the car in the first place. Karma? That was a mistake. My grandparents were right there, and they tore into my parents like I'd never seen before. Grandma told me to go to my room and let them sort it out. It was 2 hours before I was called back into the living room. My parents were on the couch, looking like they'd been hit by a truck. My uncle and 2 other relatives were there now, too. My grandparents had somehow gotten it out of them. When they bought the car, They just looked for the cheapest thing they could find that still ran. No questions asked. They didn't even bother to inspect it, let alone properly read the ad. My uncle, who knows cars, told me the engine would need a complete rebuild. The head gasket had warped the block. It would cost more than the car was worth to fix. I had to call into work and tell them I couldn't come in, my car was fried. They understood but put me on unpaid leave. I want to stress, I had no involvement in what happened next. My grandparents just told me to chill and let them and my parents take care of it. And they did. A few days later, they came back. This time, it was a 1999 Honda Civic hatchback with 180,000 miles. White like the Subaru, and it drove great. Not all-wheel drive, but better gas mileage. It came with a list of all recent repairs, including a new radiator. My uncle even went over it. I thanked everyone profusely. My parents, though? They were not happy for me. At all. They said very little, just walked away. There wasn't even that sarcastic, new toy for a brat vibe. If I had to put it into words, it was pure, unadulterated defeat. The Subaru was later resold for $400, the best we could get. That money went into my savings. But that's only half of it. You see, when I said I did better in school than my brother, I wasn't kidding. He got a 30% scholarship after high school. I got a 50% scholarship. Not at the same college, but at one comparably good and closer to home. To say my parents were shocked is an understatement. As soon as the shock wore off, they just looked unhappy. I decided it wasn't a good idea to poke the bear. But Grandma? Grandma thought otherwise. She didn't just poke it. She really poked it. First, she asked if they were happy for me. They mumbled they were, but their faces said otherwise. So my grandparents asked, "What is your problem? Why do you dislike your second son? He's doing great, exceeding expectations, and you can't be happy about it? Do you want him to fail? Were you hoping he'd fail?" My mother looked really upset, and my father couldn't meet my eyes. They meekly said they were happy for me. They even managed to say they wanted me to take the world by storm at college and that they'd help pay some tuition, just like they were for my brother. My grandparents sharply told them they'd better keep their word, because there should never have been any favoritism. I thanked them for the help. I received a light, almost limp handshake from my father and a very stiff hug from my mother. It all felt so forced, so devoid of real emotion. I was, and still am, extremely thankful for the car and the tuition. But my parents they drained all the emotion out of the room. Later, I asked my grandparents, "What is it? Why do they act this way? Was I an accidental pregnancy or something?" They exchanged that look. "You know the one. It's time we told you." No, I'm not adopted, like so many people asked. But I was unplanned in a way. My parents wanted both a girl and a boy. But they got 2 boys instead. My brother was a boy, so they were really hoping for a girl the next time. They had a prior agreement to stop after 2 kids. And they never got their girl. My grandma told me they refused to find out my gender until after I was born. They were so convinced I'd be female that they bought a ton of baby stuff for a girl. But I wasn't a girl. Grandma said I ended up using all my brother's hand-me-downs until I was 3 because my parents had bought so much girl stuff they couldn't use. I was just a disappointment. From the moment I was born, my grandparents just shook their heads. They know my parents are screwed up, they said, but they've been this way for so long there's no point expecting them to change. Since then, my parents haven't spoken to me much about college. In fact, they actively ignore the subject. Thanks to some warnings from people who messaged me, I got a little paranoid. I called the college I'm accepted to and made sure to tell them that if anyone calls or emails pretending to be me, or if my parents try to say I'm not coming, they should double or triple check with me first. I mean, I kind of doubt my parents would do that after everything, but playing it safe felt like the better option. Then, something I really didn't expect happened. My brother called me. Out of the blue. He said our grandparents had told him everything. He apologized in his own way and said he hopes that once I'm on my own, I won't need to come back. He admitted he's going to stay in the state he's in after college because he likes it there. Our parents really want him to come back, but it looks like that's not happening. I told him I don't blame him, and I might do the same. The rest of the conversation was a bit awkward. We weren't really used to talking much anymore. That weekend, my grandparents and the rest of the family threw a surprise party for me. It was almost a repeat of my brother's 18th, a DJ, and a big chocolate cake my grandma made. I couldn't thank them enough. My parents? They attended, but they were like wallflowers the entire time. They didn't say or do much, just sat at a far table in the corner and drank quietly. The look of defeat on their faces was even greater now. I think the party wasn't just to congratulate me, but also to subtly rub it in my parents' faces that they should have done better. The rest of the family had made their disappointment clear. My parents looked like they wanted to leave, but couldn't. They were being humiliated, forced to stay. Grandma just said, "You're never too old to be taught a lesson in humility." My part-time job went full-time after high school, and I've been working hard to build my savings before college. Minimum wage, sure, but a job's a job. I want to leave it knowing I gave my best. I doubt I'll be back to update again, so thanks for reading. 2 years later. Well, I'm back. I've been away for 2 years, and I kind of expected I'd be posting one last time, mostly because my brother is getting his 4-year bachelor's degree this year, just like I am. For those who remember my previous posts, I'm the guy whose parents were verbally backhanded by the family for showing blatant favoritism, and who later found out the reason was because they wanted a girl. My grandma ended up admitting even more to me after I left for college. Before I was born, my parents were so convinced I'd be a girl that they bought a bunch of girl stuff without even bothering to check my gender through ultrasound. About a year ago, my grandma told me that my mother actually tried to raise me as a girl for the first 6 months of my life. She was putting me in girls' clothes and calling me by a different name, and my father enabled it all. I know it's true because Grandma showed me old family photos of me with my brother when I was an infant. I was wearing pink in all of them. There was even a visible name tag in some photos with the name they wanted for a girl. But once word got out to the extended family, my parents stopped. My grandparents told my mother that trying to raise me as something I wasn't, without giving me a choice, was wrong. Even though my family is rather old school, my grandparents are surprisingly open-minded. They put the hammer down. The girl treatment stopped. But instead of getting me new clothes, my parents just kept me in my brother's hand-me-downs for years, until my grandparents noticed that too, and did something about it. Finding all this out, it made me realize my grandparents kept my childhood from being far, far worse than it was. I am incredibly thankful for them. My mother apparently struggled to call me by my real name for about 2 years. Because they didn't get the girl they wanted, they refused to connect with me like they did with my brother, the boy they actually wanted. When my grandparents heard I wasn't getting anything new, like my brother was, they threatened to petition for guardianship of me. They had evidence of all the things I described. My parents couldn't stand the thought of a public scandal, so they stopped with the hand-me-downs and pretended to love me for a while. But as I got older, it degenerated. First into indifference, maybe even hate. I'm not sure. Hate means you still care, in some way. But indifference? That's the actual opposite of love. I just know my parents couldn't accept that their favorite son wasn't the best at everything, especially compared to their unwanted son. Since I moved out, they barely interacted with the family. They threw themselves into work, partly because the family forced them to contribute to my college tuition like they did for my brother, but also because, to them, working was the only thing that gave them a reason to tell everyone to leave them alone. My grandma suspects they've even slept in their cars a few times to avoid coming home. I only saw my parents at Christmas at my uncle's house for the past couple of years. They barely even spoke to me. Now that I was living my best life away from them, I guess you could say they'd stopped bothering to act like I was their son. They don't want me anymore, not after the family humiliation they feel they suffered, even though they know they brought it on themselves. They've become workaholics, doing little else. My grandmother told me my bedroom is basically exactly how I left it the day I moved out. My parents haven't even gone inside. But they kept my brother's room clean and ready for the day he'd finally come home after college. Well, that didn't happen. They flew out to see him for his graduation and had a big celebration. I wasn't invited. Not that I could have afforded to go. But my grandparents went along and gave me the details. My parents were still convinced my brother would be coming back home. That's when he awkwardly told them he had already secured a job through an internship he'd done the past year and had found an apartment of his own. My father became furious. My mother lost her mind, crying and begging him to come home. But he refused. You see, these past 2 years, my brother and I have reconnected a bit.
He found my Reddit account and called me.
He wasn't angry, just wanted to talk. He admitted to me that our parents put him through a lot as well. Our mother absolutely smothered him, especially when I wasn't around, and our father was quite strict with his expectations. The fact that I did better than my brother, when our parents had invested everything into him, just broke them. Now they're extra broken because my brother refused to come home. The way our parents treated my brother is also why we stopped connecting as siblings until these past couple of years. He did bully me at times when we were growing up, but that's because being the favorite went to his head. However, it was favoritism with strings attached. And when he realized that, he got counseling after moving out. My brother also has a girlfriend he met in college, and he kept her a secret because he knew our parents wouldn't approve. When they eventually found out, they didn't approve. My mother even referred to his girlfriend, whom she hadn't even met, as a SLT. My brother blew up at them over that. His girlfriend is in nursing school, a year from graduation herself. My brother says she's the best. I've never met her, but she sounds wonderful from how he's described her. My grandma told me my mother went so far as to hire a private investigator to find out who my brother's girlfriend was. She was irritated to learn that the girlfriend was squeaky clean, from a good family, and on the same political side. In her mind, the girlfriend was the reason my brother wasn't coming back, even though he made it clear he decided that before even meeting her. My father had become stoically silent about it from what I heard. However, my mother let it slip to my brother that she'd hired a detective, and my brother gave our parents a piece of his mind. This led to a whole argument about how they gave him everything and how ungrateful he was for not coming back. But he called them out. He said that being the favored child is abuse too, because they nearly made him just like them. Hearing that broke my parents. My brother told our grandparents, and they staged another family intervention. One I was even involved in through a video call. My parents tried to ignore me, but even my brother told them to talk to me. We all told them enough was enough. They have 2 sons, and they needed to start treating us fairly. They had let something as idiotic as not being born the gender they wanted ruin their love for me from day one. Pardon my language on this next part. My father hit his breaking point and yelled, "You want us to admit we effed up?" Well, yeah, we did. What do you want us to effing do? Effing time travel. We're paying for part of his effing college, too. What more does he effing want from us? Things ended very poorly in that intervention. My mother cried and said she was sorry to me, but I still didn't feel her heart was in it. She didn't spend much time apologizing to me at all before moving on to my brother through the phone he was video calling from. She spent a long time crying and apologizing to him until he told her to go back and actually apologized to me like she meant it. That's when my father grabbed the phone and shut it off. Then he just sat down and told everyone to leave. The last thing my grandparents said to my parents was that they were so disappointed in them and that maybe losing both sons would show them they should never have favored one. Right now, my parents are not on speaking terms with the rest of the family. My grandma heard a rumor they might be planning to move. But they have a paid-off country house and great careers. I feel like they'd be fools to move. But since my brother isn't going back and I'm likely not either, I suppose it's not really an issue. I kind of doubt they'd welcome me if I came to visit after all the crap that went down. I am still thankful to them for helping pay for my college. My student loans were significantly reduced thanks to them. But as parents, I think we can all agree they just didn't do a good job. So, I've told you my story. It's been a wild ride of favoritism, sabotage, and eventually, a strange kind of peace. What do you guys think? Have any of you experienced this kind of blatant favoritism in your own families? How did you deal with it? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below.